Hey everybody, Joy here. I have just finished editing what you are about to watch, and it has everything to do with the quilt called Purrfect Library, P-U-R-R-F-E-C-T, Purrfect Library. You'll see plenty of pictures and the instructions and all different things that I do with it. But I am going to call this video part 1 of the tutorial for the kitty quilt, because a lot of you wanted to sew along with me. This will get you started. This will get you very started. I show you everything in this video about how to start, how to do the slanted books, and how to figure out what colors you want for your books, how to place your books, what errors there are in the directions, and there's several, what to do about them, how to correct them. And then I finish at the end of this with showing you the 9 blocks all done without the applique on them. So since it's too long to add the applique and the cutouts, the scan and cut and all of those things, I'm going to make a part 2 that will show you, and it may have to be part 2 and 3 actually, because I want to show you, and I've shown you before. I have to just go pick up an old video and plug it in here, really, because I've shown you before. I might do that, we'll see. But once you get the cats appliqued on top of the 5 blocks that have cats, you have to take them to the sewing machine and sew around all of them. And so I want to show you how I do that. And that takes a long time. So this may be 3 parts, maybe 2, but just for your information right now, this is part 1 to get you started on the Purrfect Library. I hope you enjoy it. Hey everybody, Joy here. Y'all ready to make the kitty quilt with me? A lot of you probably already made the kitty quilt and you're on to something else by now. But for anybody from now until the future who may want to make this adorable kitty quilt, let me see, let me get the picture out of it. I'm just going to show you how I go through it and do it myself. I made this quilt for my friend Viv. Many of you will remember that. And it turned out so good that my husband was crazy about it. So I'm making him one for his birthday. He's going to be 76 years old, September 30, 2022. You will not see these videos until after his birthday because I want it to be a total complete surprise. And I'll definitely video him opening it so y'all can watch that. Okay, so I'm going to tell you my way of thinking doing this quilt. This is what it looks like. And this is the direction book that comes with it. It also comes with 4 kitties, 4 kitties. And it gives you the parts and the pieces of the cats. It has a total of 9 blocks. They're A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, is that right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. You can see that 5 of the blocks have big cat appliques in them. So that leaves 4 blocks that don't. So I am going to start with block D, this one right here, because I want to put a picture of 2 of our cats, the ones that we most recently had that have died, and I want to put a picture right here. So I'm starting with block D, but you can start with any block you want to start with, and it will tell you that in the directions. But since I've made this before, I'm hoping I can go a whole lot faster than I did the first time. So this is your instruction book. So I found a page that says block D. I went to my printer, my copier, and I made this page bigger. So this is my new page for block D. The reason I do this is because I want to make marks all over it. You can see over here, this is where I'm starting, and you can see an orange check mark on those blocks right there that I have cut already. It shows you here what size pieces to cut out of the background, and it shows you here what size pieces to cut out of all the different colors you're going to use for the books. Okay? Pretty easy to understand. But I'm going to start with this right here. Now I've got to go find a material to make this book out of. I've got all of the background cut for just this. Now I'm going to cut this book, and then I will go on. You can see this is all number 1. This is all number 2. This is all number 3. This is 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's all numbered and lettered. Very, very easy to follow. So you can just pop over here and find your number, and it tells you what size to cut. So I like a big sheet of paper that I can mark all over and keep track of where I am and what I'm doing. There are 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice the 4 angled books. 4 of them. There's one. Hope my fingernails are clean. There's one. There's one. There's one. There's one. And there's one. And at first I thought, oh my goodness, I don't understand. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to show you how that works and how it goes together for the angled books. You may remember that I bought a whole bunch of jelly rolls with different colors, more masculine colors to make this quilt with. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to get a green out. Lots of cute greens. Oh, lots of cute greens. I just love it. Greens and navies and browns for my husband. See this green here? This is going to be the very first book. And it's going to be one of those diagonal books. So we're going to start out with this one. Look here at this little picture right here. This is for the diagonal book. The 3.5 by 12 3/4, and it tells you how to slice it. Sometimes you're going to slice it this way, and sometimes you're going to slice it this way. Okay, so be sure you pay attention to that. And you slice it from corner to corner. So you can see here, I have sliced this. This was together. This was all one big rectangle. And I put my Quilter Select Ruler, Quilter Select Ruler, Quilter Select Ruler. If you have others, fine, but this is my favorite because it doesn't slip. So I lined it up like that, and I cut it, and now I have the 2 pieces. All right? Now it says, over on this side, notice I'm working on number 1. I'm working on number 1. Here's some number 1s right here under background. Over here under book, here's a number 1. So I come over here and see what the number 1s are. And I'm sorry if I'm screaming at you since I'm so close to the camera. You come over here and you find whatever 1s there are. It says 1C. Why does it say 1C? Because 1A, B, and D are here. 1C is missing because 1C is over here. So 1C is 1 3/4 by 9 inches. And that's going to be a book. And you can make it any color you want to make it. I'm going to circle 1C. I circle what I'm getting ready to cut. Now, a lot of you are better quilters than I am, and if a lot of you are better quilters, you're probably not even watching me in the first place. So this is some of my newbie quilters that haven't made a quilt before but want to. I have to tell you ahead of time, it is addictive. So I'm going to cut the ruffle up. I'm going to cut the selvage off of this. You always cut the selvages off when you're quilting. You don't quilt with selvages. Now, I don't know how wide this is. It says it has to be 1 3/4. This is 2.5 because it's a jelly roll. So I'm going to cut it 9 inches first. It wants 9 inches. And I found out from Editus Guitar, this really makes a difference. And I never really knew about it before. But when you're measuring to any distance anywhere, wherever the line is for that measurement, you pop that line up on your fabric. Okay, so you're cutting out the line also. And that will keep you from having too short of pieces, which is so frustrating. 9, Klein. 9. There's 9 inches. Now this has zigzag edges. I don't like those zigzag edges, and this is too wide anyway, so I'm cutting off the zigzags on one side first. I do not like those zigzags. If you like those zigzags, you just keep your zigzags, but I don't like them. I mean, you can barely even line the things up. They're not straight. All right, zigzags off. Now I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to cut 1 3/4 with my Quilter Select ruler. These Quilter Select rulers are just the best. You can just hold them. You don't have to, and you don't have to jump. You just hold it down and it does not move. They are wonderful. So here's my #1 very first book for the birthday surprise. And it's going to go right in there. Okay? Is that fun or what? Let me show you something here. Now I'm making this whole block, so I'm making everything in it. One book goes that way and one book goes this way. So notice over here, I showed you, you probably noticed it. You cut one of them this direction and one of them this direction. Be sure you pay attention to that, because that's what's going to make your books lean the right way. Lots of fun in the quilt. Well, the most fun in the quilt is putting the names on the books. That's really fun. Okay, so we have this ready to put together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look in the book for the directions. See, that says block D, but it doesn't tell you what to do with block D. Someplace in this book, it gives you detail of how to sew this together. So I'm going to try to find that for you. Okay, here we are. Go to page 2 in your instruction book, right here, and you will see exactly how you do the slanted books. Without this, I would have been lost. I wouldn't have known what to do, but they all turned out perfect. So it's really cool. So there's your page. Page 2 in your book will tell you how to do the slants. So what you do for the slanty book, according to page 2, you take your book and you sew the top on the book and the bottom on the book of the background. You do that first. 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. I'm not even set up to start sewing this yet, so I'm just going to pin it. All right, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. The first time I did this, I was very, very, very confused. Here's the directions on page 2. But I got lost in the pictures down here. So I want to show you what you do. You had your 2 triangles. It shows you here to sew the book, the green book with the 2 light colored background tips. It shows you to sew it to those 2 triangles. It doesn't tell you how to line it up to the triangles. You just have to figure that out for yourself. It shows it pretty close up here at the top and kind of farther away at the bottom. Maybe it works that way, I don't know. But what I did was I measured 1/4 inch away from this corner. And this is what it comes out looking like. And it looks just like diagram 4. They've got diagram 4 already cut. And the first time I made this, I thought, well, what does it look like? What does it look like before it's cut? But you can see the funky shape here and here with the point and then this diagonal line, and it all looks funky. And it tells you 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch, and I couldn't tell by their dashes. It looked to me like their dashes just cut everything off. I think they should have pointed out past the dashes to the edge so you would know the 1/4 inch is all the way to the edge there. Okay, so here it is. This is what I came up with. This is how it looks. It looks like the picture, except the picture is shut. Can you see it really good? So what I did was I came out 1/4 inch from here, 1/4 inch from here, 1/4 inch where the pink is, and 1/4 inch here where the pink is. Friction markers, my friends. Friction markers, wonderful, fabulous, marvelous. They come in ink pen type and marker type. Get them both. They're in my store, my Amazon store. They're fabulous, wonderful. Get them in every color. You will love them because an iron makes all of the marks go away. So what you have to do is figure out how to make this line right here straight, because you've got this crooked line here. How do you know where your line's supposed to go? What you do is you line your ruler up with this straight edge. This is straight and this is straight. This is a crooked mess, that's a crooked mess. You got to have something straight. So find a line on your ruler to line this outside edge up with. Come over here 1/4 inch past this point, and then make sure your ruler is super, super, super straight with this edge out here. Then draw your lines, okay? So you've got to use your straight edges. You'll have to use this straight edge and this straight edge to draw this straight edge and this straight edge. So now what I'm going to do is cut those off with my Quilter Select ruler. Always use it right side up or it won't work. So put it on your marks. On the mark, get set, go. Make sure you're still 1/4 inch out there. Check it, check it, check it, check it, check it. Don't just whack, 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 whack and think you did it right, and then you go to sew it together and nothing works. Oh, it will be crying time again. You're gonna leave me, that's right. Okay, so there's that. See how nice and straight that edge is now? Let's turn it around and do the other side. This is supposed to end up, what's it supposed to end up as? It's supposed to end up as 4 inches. Now we're doing a scant quarter when we're sewing. Okay, so I've cut that off, that's gone. If I've messed it up, I'll have to do it again. Let's see if I've got 4 inches. I can cut off about 1/16 of an inch over here on this edge. See that little sliver? Yeah, that's just a sliver. And then we're gonna come up here, make sure we're 1/4 inch. I wish they'd draw a bold 1/4 inch line all the way across so you could make sure. 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. Cut. See there, there's your funky piece. Now we're gonna cut this funky piece. My point's not quite as funky as their point is, but that's okay. And there we are. So this is your diagonal book block. That's it. And when we get it sewn in, there's just going to be a little bit of background showing at the top and the bottom. So this is book number 1. We are doing this slanted book right here. So what I do is I always make a big copy of the page that is the block I'm working on. That's the instructions for the block I'm working on, block I. Block I. And I blew it up 130% so I can write all over this paper as much as I want to. So I am doing this block right here. Every book has a different number. This is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So over here are the book directions for number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and you can see all of those refer to these books over here. Then the ABCs, you can see A, C, D, B, C, D, A, refers to these numbers. This is 1A, and this is 1A. This big long one here is 1C. These little bitty ones. Be sure you don't miss these little bitty ones at the end. Those are very, very important. That's 1A. And there's another one just like it down here. See, it points to it. It's so tiny you'll hardly even see it when you make it up. So, I have cut out the ABC here. A, B, B, because they're both the same size, C. So you are going to, every time you see a slanted book in this, that's what it's going to look like. Sometimes it slants to the left, sometimes it slants to the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm sewing mine with a slant 1/4 inch, which is 1 needle space over to the right. I'm using my Virtuosa, and it doesn't have very many needle spaces. It has maybe 6 in there. So it doesn't move over very many numbers, but I've got it moved over 1 to the right. I am going to sew this to this and this to this. Then I'm going to press that. Then I'm going to sew this to this and this to this. And then I'm going to press that. It shows in the directions to sew it really close to this edge right here. See this long straight edge? Don't go by the pointy edge. Go by the long straight edge. See here? There's a pointy edge, a long straight edge. So I measure down 1/4 inch from this point, and that's where I line this up. And I measure down 1/4 inch from this point, and that's where I line this up. You might find a better way, so let me know if you do. Okay? I will come back in a minute and I will do a little clip of what it looks like all put together. And notice over there I have all of my colors lined up. I've got the entire thing laid out. I put this away every day. I hide it. But there's the first 8 blocks. And I put them out on the floor every morning or every afternoon when I come up here to work, so I can arrange the colors in a pleasing fashion. For instance, I don't want a book this color right here. And I don't want a book this color right here. And I don't want a book this color right here. And so I like to mix up all the colors, but repeat them through the quilt so it looks like it goes together. I hope that makes sense. So what I did is I laid this out on the floor, and I walked over here to my table. You can see it's right here. Quilt, table, quilt, table. And so then I pulled out all the materials. This is a slanty book right here. And then I pulled out all these colors that I thought would look good next to all of those other colors. Now that's how I do it. You say, show us how you do it. This is how I do it. I have this piece sewn together. You can see I press it toward the dark, toward the dark. Be sure to iron all your fabrics. Be sure to iron all your fabrics. Be sure to iron all your fabrics because they shrink under the heat and the steam of the iron. I did not iron this separately, but I did iron it as part of the big piece, okay? You see this red mark right here? That's 1/4 inch down from this point. You see this red mark here? 1/4 inch up from that point. Now don't do this side and don't do the point. Be sure you've got the part. This is going to sew inside this rectangle like that. Be sure you have it placed right down there or you'll be starting over. So I am going to line up this point right here. This point, you can't see it. I'm going to line up this point right here, that one, with this line. Just like that. And you need to do both sides the same. Then you smooth it, smooth it, smooth it, smooth it, all the way down to this point. And then what happens is when you get down to the point, you should have maybe just a hair over 1/4 inch down here where you're sewing this off. Okay? So there you are. Sewing it like that to that. It's going to make a funny shape. It really is. It's going to make a real funny shape. And you'll notice in your book that it shows a real funny shape. Let me sew this. So this is sewn now, and you'll see when I open it, it makes a funny thing down here at the bottom. And that's okay. You want a funny thing down here at the bottom, and then you've got this jog up here at the top. So that's all very strange, and when you first do it, it's like, oh, that doesn't look right. But it is. So now I'm going to flip this. I haven't pressed that yet, but it's okay. I'm going to put this over here on this side now. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put this right on that red line up there that I drew. Because I want both sides to be the same is the main thing. Smooth it out. Pin it, but don't sew over the pins. It's not that my sewing machine's going to hit the pin, although it could, but usually it doesn't. It's because where there's a pin, it will make the material sew differently there. It'll be a little deeper or a little narrower, I don't know which, but it just doesn't look good. And you'll end up having to go back and fix the jog. Okay, there we are, got that part pinned. Now I'm going to sew it. So that's sewn on now. So when you open it up, here's what you've got. But you're going to have to trim it here and you're going to have to trim it here. And that's pretty tricky. But before I do that, I'm going to go press this, and I'm going to press both light pieces to the dark pieces. I'll be back. With our beginning stack of colors, and this is book number 1. So far I have this done. So guess what I do? I go in here and I make around the 1, and I do a big pink X. A big pink X, put a big pink X over here, big pink check mark, whatever you can to show, hey, I'm done with that part. And now we're going to the second part. I go to my next block, which is right here, 2A. So then I come over here and I look at 2A, 2.5 by 6 3/4. So I'm going to write that here, 2.5 by 6 3/4. Then I've got 2B, 2.5 by 1 3/4, 2.5 by 1 3/4, 2.5 by 1 3/4. I made a little arrow out to here. See? 2C, 2.5 by 1.5, 2.5 by 1.5, 2D, 2.5 by 7. So that's all I need for number 2. Make sure you can see it, 2.5 by 7. And so then that will be 2. 2 will be all done, okay? So now I've got all the measurements that I need. I've already got my color lined up, this one. This is my next book. So I find out that this book has a label on it, so I'm going to have to go find something to be a label. That's no big deal. So pick a number, a color, any color, not a number. Pick a color, any color to be the label for your book. All right? Yeah, it's not hard, but it is very slow going and time consuming. So allow 4 hours for every block. A morning for a block, an afternoon for a block. And this doesn't even involve doing the kitty cats. Oh my goodness, allow a whole day or 2 for one cat. Maybe 2 days for one cat. Those are lots and lots of work. But I'll show you how to do that too, okay? I want to show you that there's lots of mistakes in measuring in this pattern. This block right here came out to 15 inches. That's what it's supposed to be, 15 inches before you sew it onto this book, 15 inches. So this book right here should be 15 inches. It's not. It's 15.5 inches. Look. Look how it's longer. This should be the same length as this. Now I have found this several times in this pattern. So I'm telling you, watch for that. If this is supposed to line up with this, and it is, see? Here's the slanty one, here's the green one, and they're supposed to line up with each other. If they don't, fix them so they do. So you can decide, do you want to cut off the bottom or do you want to cut off the top? But you're going to have to cut off one of them. So I think I'll just wait a while and see if I want the book taller or shorter. But please beware of that. Here you can see the math I did. I said, what the heck, let's add this up. And sure enough, it came out to 15.5 with her measurements. Up here on 2, her measurements came up to 15.5. That should be 15. So beware, beware, and don't land in a snare. Look here. This piece here is 8.5 inches wide. It says it is 8.5, 8.5, 8.5. It's 8.5. This piece is this book right here, number 3. And you see book number 3 right here, book number 3 right here. Should be the exact same width as this block, which is 8.5. That's 8.5. This should be 8.5. This. It's not. Look. This is 8 3/4. Did I cut it exactly right? Well, let's look and see. This is, if you add a quarter to it, that's 5.5. What does it say this block is supposed to be? 5.5. 3B. Let's see what we cut this one. This one's supposed to be 1.5. 3B, 1.5. This is 1.5. This is 1.5. This is supposed to be 1. This is supposed to be 1, which is now a half since it's sewn. So, another mistake in the pattern. I'm telling you, there's lots of them. So when you come out with issues like this, measure what you know is right. You know this piece has to be right. You know that this plus this has to end up to be 15.5. So it needs to be 16.5 right now, and it is. So you see the whole width of this is going to be okay. You don't need this extra down here. I mean, this takes some thinking and some time. Don't just slap it together and think, oh, I've got to force that to fit in there. You're going to have a mess, I tell you. I'm really disappointed in whoever made this pattern because they sure didn't proof it. And of course, that's the way things are nowadays. There's no quality control of anything. So that has to come off. Remember, this is too long, right? This piece is too long. But look at this. This piece lines up with it perfect. Look at that. But it has to be the same as this because it's all together. It's all together. This right here is, if you fold it off the bottom of this, and you had just this right here. You see, this should be an equal rectangle or square. Equal. You shouldn't have this longer and this shorter and this longer and that shorter and that longer. Be careful, be careful, be careful, be careful, be careful. So I think what I will do is I will sew this to this first. This to this first. Now, if it turns out that, hey, this slanted block turned out, look at how much longer that is. That is just scary. That is just scary. It really is. I'm using a scant 1/4 inch, but I'm using a scant 1/4 inch everywhere. So that should not be a problem. And sometimes I come out too short. Look at that, how much longer it is up there at the top. Let me sew it. Look at this. Look at how far off that piece is right there. That's even more than 1/2 inch. And I checked and I checked. Now you see here how that lines up absolutely perfect at that corner. That's why you've got to have that 1/4 inch. Then you've got your 1/4 inch down here. So isn't that crazy? Beware, beware. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to line it up down here at the bottom because I want the bottom to be straight because I don't want to trim the books off. I'd rather trim the ceiling off. I'm going to go sew that now. Here it is sewn together. Look at the top of that. It's a wreck, but the bottom is as it should be. And it tells you in this thing to trim it. It says square it up. So, but I don't think it's supposed to be this far off, really. Alright, that looks pretty even to me. So all of this is going to get trimmed off. Isn't that crazy? And there goes the wall. I just cut off that much wall, y'all. Yeah. So this is the top of this block. I want to show you here how this is what I do. You say, show us how you do it, okay? Is this how the directions say? I don't know. But what I do is I do the sections that equal each other, like all of this made a nice rectangle, all of this made a nice rectangle. This is the bottom piece. Here on the bottom, I cut this piece wider than it said to, because this has to be 20.5 inches long. And just in case it isn't, I'm giving myself an extra 1/4 inch down here. I could have given myself a whole inch if I wanted to, because, you know, no matter how far you cut this, it's going to be the same thing. You know, if I cut it in half, it's still white, black, white. So I'm going to sew this section to this section, this section to this section. Before I do, I'm going to play like it's sewn and see if it's anywhere near 20.5 inches. Line these up so it looks like they're sewn. Hopefully that's more than 20.5 inches. We shall see. Yes, that is 20 3/4 inches. So I'm pretty sure that when I get this sewn together with my scant 1/4 inch, I can trim this a little bit on the bottom. Can't trim it at the top, can't trim it at the top. How come we can't trim it at the top? Because you have to have 1/4 inch here. You absolutely have to, it's the law, and you cannot break it. You have to have a 1/4 inch here, and you have to have a 1/4 inch here, so there's no trimming the top anymore. So, if I'm going to trim anything, it's going to have to be here at the bottom. Okay? I'm just going to sew this to this, this to this, trim it, then we're ready for the C-A-T-S. I think I'm going to start those tomorrow. We shall see. Okay, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and I have all 9 blocks finished. You remember the block I just did is on the bottom right corner, and remember I added to the book on the bottom? I did not cut anything off of it. I needed the whole 1/4 inch that I added. So, yeah. Add on to the sides where you can, add on to the bottoms where you can. Like for instance, that book you can see there on the bottom on the left, I could have made that blue book with the pink labels on it, I could have made it a 1/2 inch wider. Fortunately, I didn't need to, but I could have. So, yeah, the measurements just don't work out perfectly. I don't know why. It's very upsetting, but I just know, you know, plan on that. Don't you love all those crooked books? I think those are so cool in this quilt. So now all I have to do is the 5 kitties and the pictures.